So good morning, everyone, and welcome to the Center for Spiritual Living in Ukiah, California. This is our virtual Sunday service, and I want to begin by saying Happy Mother's Day to everyone, because whether you have a mother or a grandmother or a great aunt, or you are a mother, or you are thinking about being a mother, anything like that, today's your day. And I heard Victoria say before the service, or just feel blessed about the mother within. So happy Mother's Day to you all. And I just know that whatever it is that you came here to be a part of, that is a gift that brings you here, and that you will receive your answer, whether if it's in the treatments or the message or the music, that right where you are right now, you are here and ready to receive. So again, just sit back, relax, and thank you for being a part of this. We begin our service, as always, with an opening treatment, and today our treatment will be given by Theresa Staber. So, Theresa.
Okay. Good morning, everybody. Let's just take a couple deep breaths. And let ourselves be present in this moment, appreciating each other for this time spent. Signs of a loving presence surround us and bathe us with light through all of our senses on this beautiful spring day. As we smell fresh cut grass, see bright colored blooming flowers, and as we hear the songbirds as we walk through the trees on our morning walk, we realize the unity of all beings, great and small, and the vastness of spirits, most evident on this beautiful planet we call Mother Earth. And as we give recognition today to the divine feminine in all her aspects, we give gratitude for the gifts of heart-centeredness, intuitiveness, creativity, compassion, and body wisdom. We rejoice in knowing that each one of us expresses the divine feminine as an essence of ourselves, regardless of whether we are male or female. We say yes to quiet inner time. We take time to be rather than do, and allow ourselves to open and receive what is ours today as homage to the mother, the nurturer and comforter within. We give thanks for our mothers who have been there for us with unconditional love, whether or not they are birth mothers or surrogate mothers or mentors who have a heart connection with us and who have exhibited for us our being embraced by the loving universe. We give thanks for knowing our roles as co-creators of this beautiful world, and we see ourselves as a beneficial presence on this planet. I release these words to the law of mind, knowing that they have been true as spoken, and so it is.
So it is. Thank you, Theresa. That was really beautiful. So now we're going to have some special music. So David, if you'd like to come and sit. I see the piano. I just don't see David. Need to unmute yourself, honey. Unmute yourself, David.
Hello. That was beautiful, David. Thank you.
Thank you, David.
You're welcome.
It was great. And so,
Profoundly gorgeous.
So I want to introduce, you just saw him. Now I'm going to introduce him, this week's speaker. This is James Stallcup, and he has been a life coach for over 25 years. And currently he is a senior in ministerial school. He's actually coming from the Denver area. He's doing his study through the Mile High Center. And what he put in his bio is that he's committed to growth and development within himself and within others. So I just think that this is great. He is also passionate about facilitating restorative justice programs in prisons and supporting the transformation of the prison system. James has a 21-year-old son who is one of his main teachers in life. And I think all of us with kids understand that statement. But for him, his son is also a close friend. He is a hiker, a camper, a backpacker, and a lover of being outside and just playing. So I think I know I'm very excited about hearing what he has to say. So James's topic today is patriarchy. Can we do something about it? Personally, I thought this was a great theme for Mother's Day. So James, take it away.
Very good. Thank you, Candace. And David and Theresa, thank you both for your contributions. They set a beautiful space for the talk. So thank you both. So good morning and welcome. Thank you for inviting me to be here. So I would like to address for just a second that this is Mother's Day and the talk is patriarchy, which might be one of the more challenging things that mothers have to deal with. So yeah, I have high hopes that the talk and some information can give people some traction maybe around just being aware of patriarchy and possibly even shifting some things about patriarchy. So I'd like to start the conversation with a share. And what I'd like to share about is my 5-year-old son. He's 21 now, but when he was 5, the family went to visit really close friends. And when we got there, we went down in the basement and they had this huge wicker basket full of dress-up clothes. And there was dresses and hats and jewelry and shoes. And my son was drawn to this like a magnet. And pretty quickly, he found this Disney princess dress. And he did not take that thing off for 36 hours. He wanted to take a bath in it. And as we were leaving on Sunday, we're walking out the door and Megan turns to Adrian, my son, and says, "Hey, Adrian, do you want that princess dress?" And he says, "Yeah." And I jump right in the middle of that. And I say, "We're walking out the door, we're late. That dress isn't very important. Let's just go." And my son starts to cry. And I think to myself, oh, he'll get over it in a couple of minutes. And so I rush the family out the door and we're driving away. And Adrian's in the back seat in his car seat and he's sobbing. And I had never heard Adrian sob before. And I look at my partner and she gives me this look. And it was one of those couples looks and all sorts of information slams back and forth between us. And I get it. I get that my patriarchy, my force and domination ripped my son's heart out. So from that point on, whenever there was a choice to be made about Adrian, I'd check in with my partner. I'd get coaching from her. Or if she wasn't around, I'd take a big deep breath and I'd get really present. And I would make sure that any of my parenting was not coming from force or domination. Well, fast forward, Adrian's 21 now, obviously. And we go to parks together and we sit in my car and he turns me on to new music and we listen to it really loud and we have a blast. We just have a blast together and we share from our lives and we're close friends. Well, Adrian's gay and he's a drag queen. And I'm really clear that none of my parenting from when he was 5 on squished him in any way. None of that patriarchal conditioning that I had as a kid that my parents did to me got on him. So I'm going to pull up a slide and it's going to take just a minute because I have to do a screen share. And I'm actually going to share 3 different slides. So this is going to happen 3 times. So according to the cultural critic Bell Hooks, patriarchy is a political social system that insists that males are inherently dominating, superior to everything and everyone deemed weak, especially females, and endowed with the right to dominate and rule over the weak, and to maintain that dominance through various forms of psychological terrorism and violence. Get my notes up here. So the indoctrination of patriarchy in childhood runs deep, and non-binary, female and male gendered children can all be affected. Often the stereotypes and biases come in the form of labels like, "You're so bossy," Act like a lady. You're such a drama queen. You're a tomboy. Oh, you're so pretty. Or maybe on the flip side, come on, be a man, man up. Boys will be boys. Don't be a wuss. Boys don't cry. How often does this kind of gender stereotyping go on in schools or in the popular media or in our households? What impact do these patterns have on our children or on adults? So when I was a kid, my mom dominated the conversation at the dinner table. And my dad just sat there, ate his dinner, and I'm pretty sure was just pretending to listen to my mom. And I learned these patterns at a very early age. Well, my mom was the oldest of two kids, and her dad, my grandpa, grew up in Oklahoma in the 20s and the 30s. And my grandpa was beat regularly with a stick. And as my grandpa started parenting my mom, he didn't use a stick, but he used his belt to beat my mom. And when my mom was in her 80s, I was one of her caregivers. And I remember she told a story about how she had this special bush across the street from her house in the neighbor's yard. And whenever she thought the belt might be coming out, she would go to that bush and hide. And when she told me that story, a lot of my past came up. And I got to take a look at how I was parented. I was the third of three children. And by the time I came along, my parents had softened their parenting styles a lot. I only got spanked once. But my oldest brother, he got spanked regularly. So my mom was deeply wounded by the harsh rules of patriarchy from her father. And my oldest brother was pretty deeply wounded by my mom. See, my mom held the patriarchal reins in my household. It wasn't my dad. My dad was passive and laid back. So really, inside the patriarchy context, it doesn't really matter what sex somebody is. Women can be just as patriarchal, if you will, or have patriarchal patterns as much as men. Patriarchy can and does show up with non-binary, female, and male gender roles. And the sex of the person or the sexual orientation doesn't necessarily predict how patriarchy shows up. When I was newly married, I adopted the same pattern of pretending to listen like my dad did. My partner, Allison, would come home from work and she would share, and I would pretend to listen to her, but really I was reading a magazine or watching TV. And in 1993, Allison and I did the Landmark Forum together. And I remember sitting in the Landmark Forum and I raised my hands to ask a question. And the forum leader called on me and I stood up and I started asking questions about listening. But really what I was doing was I was hoping to make Allison wrong for sharing as much as she shares. And pretty quickly, as the Landmark Forum leader was interacting with me, he says, "Is Allison here?" I said, "Yeah." And he turns to the crowd and says, "Hey, Allison, would you be willing to stand up?" And I turn and look at her and she kind of tentatively stands up. And the forum leader asks Allison, "So when you're sharing, does James listen to you?" She said, "No, he pretends to listen." So the Landmark Forum leader turns to me and he says, "Here's your homework. You go home, and when Allison comes home, you sit down and you put the magazine down and you turn the TV off and you look her right in the eye and you listen. And when you go inside your head and you want to start pretending that you're listening, you come back out and you look her right in the eye. And when you go inside your head and you want to start thinking about what you want to say, you come back out and you listen." And then he said, when she's done sharing, you start asking her questions. Well, the first time I did that, I started asking Allison questions after she shared with me, and she lit up. This is the first time I've ever done that. And I actually had this conversation with her a couple weeks later. She actually got that I was really there and present with her for the first time. And because of that way of being that I shifted, and she shifted too, our whole relationship skyrocketed. We had more trust. There was more love between us. And there was actually, for the first time, there was a foundation in the context for a real relationship to start to grow. Because when I was pretending to listen to her, I wasn't a partner. I wasn't there. I was pretending to be there. So when my dad was blindly listening to my mom, inside his head, he probably thought he had to be blindly obedient to her. And we inherit we inherit and learn about these deep-rooted patterns of blind obedience from our families and our churches and cultures. We're seeped in them as children. John Bradshaw, in his book, Creating Love, has a useful definition of blind obedience. I'm going to see if I can get the screen up again. One moment. So, definition of blind obedience. Blind obedience is the foundation upon which patriarchy stands. The repression of all emotions, except fear, the destruction of individual willpower, and the repression of thinking whenever it departs from the authority figure's way of thinking. Patriarchy trains men to compartmentalize. And this process of putting things in different boxes inside of our heads, this is really the antithesis to integrity. Integrity in this context means to integrate or bring together. It's very difficult for a man steeped in patriarchy to have balance and harmony with himself, much less the people around him, when he's compartmentalizing. So when we men, and some women too, notice the compartmentalizing and we start to embrace integrity, embrace wholeness, this is a powerful step forward. And it can open up a whole different vista and a much higher quality of life. So what can we do? And more importantly, who can we be to start the process of healing patriarchy? I'll pull up another slide. Naming, oops, I forgot to, one moment. I forgot to do this part, one moment. There we go. So here's some things that we can do, some actions we can take. Naming the patriarchal patterns in our own lives first, whether we are non-binary, female, or male gendered, is the first step. Having the conversations in families where patriarchy is present is foundational. These conversations set the stage for healing and shifting those patriarchal patterns. Having trust in place first is vital. When trust is present, it gives the participants the space to acknowledge the patriarchy, and then forgiveness can take place. So one definition of forgiveness is allowing ourselves or another safe passage through our place of our place of judgment or ego. I'm going to read that one more time. Allowing ourselves or another safe passage through our place of judgment or ego. Stop the screen share. So I just want to talk about forgiveness for just a moment here. So when I talked about our place of judgment, from my perspective, we all have a veil where we look at life through. And this veil is the place of judgment, or some people call it the ego. And when we're aware of that veil, that place of judgment, we can actually witness that process. We can observe that we do have that veil of judgment in place. And that process of forgiveness, when we allow ourselves safe passage through that place of judgment or ego, or we allow somebody else safe passage through that place, it can totally shift and open up a relationship. It can totally shift a relationship to ourself. And as we go through this process of forgiveness, it's like a lock and a key. When we forgive somebody in our life that might have patriarchal patterns, it can totally open up the relationship. So that would be my invitation, is that moving forward, that we all be able to notice the patriarchal patterns. And then you're at a choice point once you notice them. And you can forgive yourself or forgive somebody else. And have that patriarchy soften. Have those rules that we've learned in our culture shift. Maybe scoot over to the side a little bit. So, as people, non-binary, female or male, as we embrace forgiveness, as we forgive ourselves first, and then the people in our lives, the patterns of patriarchy can heal and soften. Our quality of life can improve. Our ability to love ourselves and others can grow and flourish. Let's move into treatment. I invite us all to take that sacred goddess breath. On this Mother's Day, I invite us all to notice that divine feminine inside. We all have that divine feminine and the divine masculine inside. And as we do this journey called the Earth Walk, as we move forward day after day, week after week, that divine feminine and divine masculine that is inside is crying out for balance, is crying out for harmony. That internal divine goddess that is inside all of us is oh so wanting to come forward. And I claim this context of noticing the divine feminine and the divine masculine inside. I claim this context for all people on this call. And I claim this context for all humans on the planet. All people on this call and all humans on the planet have that divine feminine and divine masculine inside. And as people heal, as people move forward, that balance of feminine and masculine can come to the forefront. And I hold this for all people on this call, and I hold this for all people on this planet. All people are blessed. All people have this divine goddess energy inside. I bless these beings on this call. I bless the beings on this call as we take the next step forward, as we drive the car or shop for groceries, I bless all beings on this call. I give great thanks that we all have access to noticing that divine feminine and divine masculine inside. And I invite all people to heal any patriarchal patterns that might be present. I give great thanks for the people on this call. I give great thanks for the technology wherein we can have this call. Blessings, blessings, blessings. And so it is.
Thank you so much, James. That was really beautiful and just a great topic for the day. So thank you so much. And so James will be hanging with us for a few minutes after the service. So hopefully most of you can stay. And if you have anything to say to him or questions, he'll be here for a little bit. So, but right now we're going to move on to our offering. And as always, I just want to thank all of you for financially supporting our center. It's only because of your gifts and tithes that we are able to do this. And as we move closer and closer to moving back into our physical building, it's also because you guys have been here and working at it for the last year and a half. So thank you so much. So I am going to bring up the thing, offering affirmation. Here we go. And so if you could all just say this with me right now. Divine love through me blesses and multiplies this gift. With all my heart and with all my mind, I know I am saying yes to something I value. With all others present here, we dedicate these gifts to the values and vision we share. So, thank you all.
Candace, is there music now?
Not just a minute. Hold on, honey.
Oh, just checking.
Let me do the announcements and then, yes, we'll have a closing song. Okay, so we just have a few announcements, and first one is, again, we're looking at our next steps. We're always looking at our next steps, and so we're moving towards reopening, and it appears that we could open as sometime in June, at least in a limited way. But and this is what we've been talking about. In order for that to happen, there are some things we need to figure out, and mostly we need some people to step forward and be willing to take on some of the other jobs that we haven't had. Particularly if we're back in the sanctuary, we'll need somebody to monitor the Zoom, because we're going to be doing both virtual and live simultaneously. It appears, somebody asked me the other day how many churches within CSL are doing virtual services, and I said all of them. So, and what the overwhelming thought is that if you're going to continue as a center, you really need to be on both. You can do a live, but you also need to do live stream simultaneously in order to really create that environment. I'm not putting this very well today, but you should all go listen to David Bruner talk about it, because he's really got it down. He really knows that we have changed for the better. We have changed for good. And that part of how that's going to look is how we do our operations. So please consider that. Harvey this week sent me a couple of places to go to look at how to more effectively do a live Zoom call, and I'll be looking at that. But it can't be just me, because as you guys all know, I've made this announcement now a few times. I will be not doing this anymore September 1st. So we need to, everything that I'm doing right now, somebody else needs to step up and do that. And we're starting with looking at what we need to do to move back into our building. We are also putting together a selection committee. So we are going to be reposting our proposal for a new minister, hopefully pretty soon. And right now we do have 4 people that are willing to be. I would love to have one more person to step forward who would be also willing to serve on that committee. And so if you're interested, and I could talk, if you're not clear on what that means, I can talk to you and share with you what that would look like. So if you are interested in helping select the new minister, which in a way gives you're going to have first access to everything that comes from candidates who are applying. So should be fun, and it's a good group, because right now it's well, all 3 of the board has all said that they'd be willing. I'm going to kind of sit on that ex officio, mostly just if there's something comes up and we don't know, I might be able to answer the question, but I could definitely go to CSL and get those questions answered. So let me know. It should be fun. And oh, also Terry Brown has offered to be a part of that. So he's going to be helping us look for our new minister. I also just want to remind the board members, normally this would be our board meeting day, but it is next week because it is Mother's Day and Mary has a camping trip to go on. So we're going to do that next week. And also we are still trying our best to support building bridges, and Theresa is still willing to accept donations at her house. Oh, for James, Building Bridges is a homeless shelter here in Ukiah. And they have sent us a new list, and Harvey forwarded it to me. So it is in your newsletter. So if you want to go and take a look at that. But basically they are now really asking and having a need for blankets, either gently used or new sleeping bags, comfy shoes, sandals, paper plates and bowls, any kind of cup you got. They want them. It says cups of all kinds. Totes for storage. I assume that means boxes, but I'm not sure what that means. But totes, do you know, Theresa? What is
Well, some people are actually moving into housing.
Right.
So that will probably be stuff for storage. And totes, I thought they were the plastic containers, but maybe I shouldn't say anything because I'm not sure about that one.
Well, the other thing on the list is like U-Haul boxes or any kind of boxes for moving, because some of these people are trying to get into housing and they need to be able to pack up their stuff and get it there. So, and then all the other typical things, toilet paper, blah, 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 anything like that. And the cool thing about building bridges is there's several ways you can get your donations there. One of them is to drop them off with Theresa, give her a call, make sure she's home, but you can take it to her house. Trudy Morgan, who actually works for Building Bridges, lives on Mill Street, which I think most of you know where Mill is. And she's fine with you just putting it on her front porch. You can just drop it off there, or you can actually go down to Building Bridges. You can stay in your car and call in. Someone will come out and unload your vehicle for you. So very little effort is required for that.
Yeah, this might I add, I got some I got a large amount of face cloths and some towels, and from Costco. They were having a sale. I called them, and so and yeah, I'm bringing that over. So I'd say some things that you might consider for them. If you're not sure, give a call and they'll let you know.
Yeah, thank you, Theresa, because that seems to have worked for several people, that you just call, if you kind of you're going to go out for the day, you can call and ask them what they need. What's your need right now? And they'll tell you, and then you can either go get it or pack it up. You all know where Building Bridges is on State Street. It's right downtown. And you know, we live in Ukiah. Nothing is more than 5 minutes from wherever you are. So it's never out of your way. So let's continue to support them as best we can. So, okay, David, would you like to do a closing song for us, please? Thank you, David. That was beautiful. Okay, well, thank you all for being here. As always, it is just a big blessing and a really big deal for me to be able to be here and see you. Just feel the energy of the divine moving through all of us. So thank you so much. And if you'd like to stay, we'll have a little fellowship time. And if you got to go, that's okay too. But have a great day. I love you all. Namaste.